I want to welcome you all to this session entitled Data Visualization plus Design in Datawrapper for Publication. My name is Professor Peter Penar. I'm the Executive Director of the Leaders of Africa Institute, and it's so great to be with you at the Africa Digital Skills Conference today. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we've been able to iron those out, so we're really excited to restart and begin again with you. And before we continue today's session, I want to have my co-host today to introduce herself. Eva, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Good to see you once again. My name is Eva Penar, and I am the lead for the Data Plus Design program at the Leaders of Africa Institute. And I'm so happy to be part of the African Digital Conference to participate in this program and also share my knowledge in data visualization, specifically using Datawrapper. And I'm looking forward to learning from you as well. And as we begin this section, so I'll hand it over to Peter to walk us through the presentation.
Thank you so much. And I'll say that today we usually join from our studios in the United States, as the Leaders of Africa Institute is based in the United States. But today we're a little bit closer to you. We are joining you today from Accra, Ghana, the capital city, which is much more close to many of you. And so it's good to be closer to you, and we're really excited for today's session. So as I mentioned, today is entitled Data Visualization plus Design in Datawrapper for Publication. So today we're going to be focused on a bit of data visualization, a bit of design, and we're going to be doing that in one of the most capable platforms for data visualization, and that is called Datawrapper. Now, we are also hosting another session tomorrow on Tableau, and that session takes place at 9 a.m. UTC, so we encourage you to join that platform as well. Now, this session is sponsored and hosted by the Leaders of Africa Institute, and this institute is focused on promoting research, data science, as well as tech development, and doing so to achieve sustainable development goals across a variety of different areas, including electricity, water access, public health, and education, for instance. And so we're really excited to support the Africa Digital Skills Conference through our sessions today, and we are very happy to partner with Mobile Web Ghana for the third time in this conference, as well as American Spaces. So we're so happy to be on their platform today, sharing a little bit of our knowledge related to data visualization. Now, the Leaders of Africa Institute, I'll mention before we get started, is an institute that has drawn scholars from over 45 countries around the world and over 30 countries on the African continent. And I can see in today's attendees list that many of you are joining us from some of our flagship programs, in particular the flagship program that I coordinate, and that is the Research Methods Program. As Eva mentioned before, she is the co-lead for a sister or brother program of the Research Methods Program, and that is the Data Plus Design for Development Program, which is focused exclusively on data visualization. And so the last thing I will encourage you to do, and you can see some of our scholars that we've had join us over the years across our programs at the Institute, but one of the things that I want to mention before we get started in today's session is to encourage you to apply to the Data Plus Design for Development Program 2025 if you have an interest and a passion for bringing data visualizations to life and using them to create a social impact. In that program, they focus on data fundamentals and design fundamentals, as well as using those fundamentals to craft data visualizations in Datawrapper, Tableau, Microsoft Power BI, and Flourish as well. And so in that program, they're going to go into a lot more depth than we're going to go into in today's general workshop in data visualization in Datawrapper. But in that program, in addition to that, you actually craft your own project that you proposed in a platform of your choice, and that is what we call the Capstone Project. Now, for the third time running that the Leaders of Africa Institute has supported the Africa Digital Skills Conference, we are going to offer 3 full impact scholarships given to participants of this conference. So when you do apply to the Data Plus Design for Development Program, you may be chosen for a full impact scholarship. So please, on the application, when it does come out in November, to check that box that you attended this session at this conference. I will also be sharing some useful links so you can be able to know when those applications open, and you can join the WhatsApp group and other platforms of communication the Institute has as we get started in today's session. And we apologize for the little bit of the delay and the technical issues that we faced, but we are all ready and raring to go for this wonderful session in data visualization. So let's jump in. And we can see on our screen some data. Now you can see on your screen some data here. And on your screen, you can see data from the Afrobarometer. And the Afrobarometer is a public opinion survey. It surveys people's attitudes on a number of different social, political, economic, medical, or other issues in their country, right? And one of the biggest issues that people think about when it comes to their own country is the economic situation of their country. So this is a question they ask all these citizens, and this is data from 2016-18. In general, how would you describe the present economic condition of your country? And you can see right here, you can see very badly, very bad, fairly bad, neither good nor bad, fairly good, very good, and then another column for the don't knows. And so let me ask you this question. If you were to look at this data in this table as it stands, who here with a raised hand or in the chat can tell me which of these countries, maybe the top three, are where we see citizens at this time that are more optimistic about the state of the economy? So which countries would you say are more optimistic about the state of the economy? Let's see what we have. So take a look at the figures here on your screen, and I'll take maybe a couple volunteers. You can just share those names in the chat as well. Which countries would you describe as being more optimistic about the state of the economy in their country? And I will notice one thing as we start here, as I ask that question to tell me where are we seeing the greatest optimism, that it is taking some folks some time to answer that question, right? So some time. So we got some results trickling in. And again, this is a little bit older data, but some of us are saying Ghana and Mozambique. So let's look at Ghana here, if we can highlight that on this list here. Ghana. So we see here, we see 27% say fairly good, 6% say good. Adding those together, I'm taking a little bit of a shortcut here. I'm adding them together. We're saying it's like 34% say the economy is good. All right, so let's see about that. Let's see if that's the high optimism. Mozambique, we see 31. We add these ones together, we get 47%, so nearly 50% of Mozambicans say the economy is good. Gambians was suggested, so the Gambia. So we can see if we add these two together, we have about 57% of citizens thinking that the economy is well off, right? And some others are coming in here, right? So like Cameroon.
Senegal too.
Senegal. So if we go to Senegal, let's go Senegal. It's in alphabetical order. We say 41% say fairly good. 3% say very good. So it's about 45%. Right. So, you know, a lot of the countries, you know, people aren't overwhelmingly satisfied with the state of the economy, but you can see some countries are more optimistic. Right. But, you know, Ghana is on the kind of the lower end of this. Right.
It is.
So it's surprising that some of us suggested that Ghana was on the higher end. Now, the reason why we may think that some countries are on the higher end, or it may take us a lot of time to process that, is because this is a poor data visualization. It is a poor data visualization. It's hard to read. Number one, it's probably quite small on your screen. And number two, we have to take some mental math shortcuts to be able to interact with this data. You saw that I was combining these categories. I was taking the fairly good and adding it to the very good, because if I'm trying to find the optimists, I got to see those people who are on the sort of the more positive end of the spectrum. And so what I had to do here is I had to combine these two categories, right? But I had to do math to do that, right? The second thing here, notice, is that this is all sorted in alphabetical order. So it was very easy for me to find the country when somebody said Senegal. Okay, I can find Senegal. But if I were to ask you the basic question, which countries are high or low on optimism, or on the flip side of it, I could ask the question about pessimism, which is sort of having a negative view, it's not sorted in any way that I can get at that meaningful information, right? And by showing this data here, really what you're trying to tell your viewers is which countries are more, have citizens that are more positive rather than negative, right? That's the point of showing this data. But if I'm having to do mental math, if I'm having to sort of sort the figures and go through several different countries to add them up and then put them in order in my mind, if I am doing that, most likely I've got a very poor data visualization.
Yeah.
Because a good data visualization draws your attention immediately to some fundamental questions and some answers to those fundamental questions. And this figure is not able to do that very well. So I think we did pretty well at defining some of these countries that are on the higher end. But again, we had some questionable responses, and it took us a bit of time. And so that's what data visualization and design is all about. It's about simplicity. It's about legibility, right? It's about telling a story in the most direct way possible. And that's what we're going to be focusing on in this design space. So with that little background about discussing the purpose of data visualization, let's take a look at another two figures here on your screen. You see a figure A and you see a figure B. And so what I want you to share in the chat is what you find on this. What do you think is better? Is it figure A or is it figure B? Let's share in the chat. What do we think is the better data visualization? Okay, so a couple of us are saying B. All right, seems like almost all of us are saying figure B. All right, good. Yeah, so figure B would generally be a better data visualization. And why? Well, it's taking away some information, right? It's actually taking away some information, which is who said fairly good and fairly and very good and fairly bad and very bad. So by combining categories, you're actually taking away information from the viewer. However, at the sake of taking some information away, you also simplified the story a bit more for the viewer, right? And that brings us to another key point of data visualization, which is there isn't one rule for how you do your visualization, right? Sometimes you want to give your viewer a lot of information, right? Like a figure A. But oftentimes you want to simplify that information if it's not adding too much to the story. So if my story was about the people who thought the economy was really, really bad, right? Like I wanted to focus on the people who are the extreme pessimists, then figure A may actually be okay because it's showing the very bad category alone. But if I'm just generally trying to communicate to my audience who are positive and who is negative, then by including all these categories, it becomes harder for my reader or my viewer to be able to answer those questions, to sort of do the addition that needs to be done. And so figure B will be better. And more often than not, simple is going to always win out over the most complex. But for a lot of us who are data scientists, who are interested in sort of doing data science work, you're sort of perhaps more inclined to show everything, right? I'm going to show you another thing that is unique about these figures. And I want to go back to this figure that I showed here. Notice another thing about this figure here, that there is a decimal point for all these estimates. So it's 39.40 or it's 28.40, right? There's decimal points. Notice in this figure, everything is rounded, right? Again, it may not seem like a big deal. We're just taking off a decimal point. But it will, if I added this decimal point to this figure, immediately it becomes more cluttered, right? And it, for some, becomes more confusing. In addition to that, for those of you who do survey research, you'll know that every survey has a margin of error. And for most surveys, the margin of error can be between 2% and 5%. So when you give decimal points on this, not only do you clutter up the visualization, but you're also giving the viewer a false sense of precision. You're pretending like you have the estimate to the nearest 10th decimal point or 100th decimal point. But if your margin of error is between 2 and 5 full percentage points, you certainly don't have an accurate estimate to that point. So for statistical reasons, as well as the purpose for design reasons, you can remove that, right? And you can notice that that has been done there. Rounding is one of the beautiful things that we do in data visualization that immediately makes our data visualization begin to come out. And I can bet that many of you who are thinking about data visualizations you've done in the past can think about how you've added those decimal points in there, right? That's a common thing we see amongst folks that are starting out in their data visualization pathway. So we've talked about some fundamentals about data visualization. We've taken a look at some examples here. So let's also answer this big question, and we've been answering it already at the beginning of this session. Why do we actually visualize data? Well, we've begun to answer this, as I've said. Number one, we have massive amounts of information. We have a lot of data out there, right? So we need to take that data that is often complex and simplify it, right? And we simplify it because we're analyzing it to help us make data-driven decisions, right? Oftentimes in an organization or a company, even the leaders of Africa Institute, our institute, we have a lot of data that we use to make decisions about various things, right? And there's so much data. But it is our job in the process of making decision making to be able to simplify that data to help us answer the key questions that we're looking at, right? So it's all about that ease, that way of getting at things. The other two pieces of this is that we need to be able to easily convey that information. So we're analyzing a lot of information and we're also making it easy to convey, and then we're also translating it into a visual format. And we're going to see a variety of visual formats that we're going to use in today's session. Now, there are a lot of data visualization platforms out there. R, Python, Tableau, which is the session will be on Tableau tomorrow. Microsoft Power BI, Excel, SAS, Flourish, Datawrapper, Canva, Infogram, and the lot. Today we're going to be focusing on Datawrapper. But I just want to point out that because data visualization is such a powerful tool for social impact, for business analytics, we have a lot of different platforms that are out there. Some that are used more often than not, some that are used for specific purposes. Today's platform, Datawrapper, is really good because it can be used for research purposes. It's a great platform because it can also be used for publishing purposes and blog posts, as well as newspaper articles. It can be used in a lot of different spaces. Whereas Tableau, the platform covered tomorrow, is more about creating data dashboards that are going to be interactive on the spot in an online platform distribution mechanism. So there are a lot of things, there are a lot of platforms out there, but there are some considerations that we may take a look at in reference to that, which leads us to today's platform. And I'm going to pass it over to Eva to talk a little bit about Datawrapper.
Thank you so much, Peter. So why Datawrapper and not other visualization tools? So Datawrapper is actually one of the many visualization tools, as Peter has already spoken about. And the reason why we are using Datawrapper in this section is because it's so easy to use and easy to learn. You don't need to think about coding, hard coding, because if you are using platforms like Python, R, you have to code, especially for R Shiny that is used for data visualization. You need to code, and sometimes it can be very tricky if you don't know the code on top of your head. So that's also one of the reasons why I use Datawrapper. It's so easy to install, and also you can do live updates if you want. And also in addition to that, Datawrapper is actually widely used, and I will share with you one organization that actually use Datawrapper most of the time. If you visit something like the International Labour Organization, most of their visualization is done in Datawrapper, and even UNICEF is done in Datawrapper. Then also, Datawrapper, there's a couple of limitations to Datawrapper. as Peter has said, if you think about Tableau, it gives you the opportunity to do interactive visualization. But Datawrapper does not give you that opportunity. For now, I think they keep improving it and they keep making it much better. But because what we are going to use the free version. It had limited features, and even with it limited features, you're still good to use it, and it can help you do so many things. And as I already said, you cannot create a dashboard with it, so you can pick your visualization and put it in a spreadsheet or in a platform, and also you can embed it in a blog if you want. I'll show you that as we go. So in terms of what kind of charts you can create in Datawrapper, you can create all your fundamentals or all your critical charts that are needed for data visualization. For instance, you can create your bar chart, column chart, and actually with Datawrapper, if we go into the demonstration, you could see that it's so much easy to use. The only thing you have to do is that you have to get your data ready. Your data needs to be clean, because that is also one of the limitations, that if you don't clean your data, it's so hard to clean your data. It's also within the platform, it's also hard to kind of do data wrangling and manipulation. It doesn't have that kind of capacity yet. So but if you have your data ready, you are able to create all the various tools, all the various visualization that you need to help you with your work. And for me, one thing I like about Datawrapper has to do with the map component. The map component is really nice and really critical. For instance, you have your symbol map, you have your locator, you have your chloroplast maps, and it's so unique. And when we get into the demonstration, you could see that for those people in, like, especially various part of African countries, it captures the map at the regional level, constituency level, and province level. So you don't even need to think about, as I said, coding it, or you don't even think about getting your spatial data set. All you need to do is get your data ready. If you have the map at the district level or at the regional level, you just need to get your data, and you'll be able to create an absolutely beautiful map. So, Peter, do you want to take this?
So obviously there are a lot of charts that we're going to make, and we want you to share in the chat what charts you think are the most useful for some of the purposes that you have. I mean, there are so many out there. There are lollipop charts, there are heat map charts. Eva mentioned also maps. We also have bar charts, your classic bar chart, your line graph, your box plot, your area charts, your scatter plots, and subtypes of scatter plots, including bubble plots. We're going to be taking a look at some of these different types. But share in the chat, if you could only use 3 figures, for instance, for your data visualization work, what would those 3 figures be? And share those in the chat. What are the common ones that you like to use? Roy says a bar chart, a line graph, and a heat map. Okay, so we got the classic bar chart. We got the classic line chart. And then we got that heat map as well. Mm-hmm. Others want to share, what figures do you generally use or like to use in some of the work that you do? We're sharing those in the chat. If you could keep only 3. Ezra says, and it's good to see you, Ezra, says heat map, scatter plot, and area chart. Wonderful. So we like that heat maps quite a lot. They're quite popular these days.
Yeah.
Uksua says bar chart, line chart, scatter plot. All right, we got bar chart, line chart, scatter plot as well. So we're seeing a pattern there, right?
Yes.
And I will say, if I were to choose, I would go along with those 3 too. I would say bar chart can be used very widely for a lot of different purposes. Line charts are really good for showing changes over time or trends. Yeah. And then I also love the classic scatter plot as well, particularly when you have a relationship between 2 variables that you're trying to show, 2 factors or 2 things, right? Kelvin says bar chart, line chart, scatter chart. Warren says map, scatter plot, bar charts. Kafui says bar chart, line chart, scatter plot as well. So, and maps. I also like maps. If I had to add another to my, I know the exercise was only to say 3, but I would definitely add maps if I had a 4th, because maps are quite popular. And as Eva said, in the software data wrapper, it's going to allow you to do some really creative maps, including maps at the sub-regional level, the local level, and for some countries that have elections within constituencies, they will even allow you to have constituency level maps. So say you're trying to combine and compare the development between different sort of outcomes in different constituencies. You're trying to see which MPs or member of parliament is doing well for the constituency. Datawrapper has the ability to include those boundaries, up-to-date boundaries for the purposes of doing that, right? So we got some similarities there in terms of what people like, but we have also some little bit of differences. And that's okay because we're all using data visualization for slightly different purposes. Yeah. Now, I will say there's one figure there that's not there, which is one of the dreaded figures in many respects, and that is the pie chart. Yeah, pie charts are one of the things that can be useful in some cases, but oftentimes overused and misused so much. If you're using a pie chart, you need to make sure that everything that's on the pie sums to 100%, because a pie chart is there to show parts of a whole, right? But some people say they put countries on a pie chart and they don't all sum to 100%. It's like, what is the GDP of 5 countries? And they'll put the GDP or the gross domestic product of a country on a pie chart. And it's not a sum out of a whole, it's just different GDPs per country, right? So pie charts, you got to be careful for them, with them a lot of times. And it's interesting to see none of us mentioned those there. But you can see that Datawrapper, these are Datawrapper-esque figures here. They are, as you're going to see, they're going to allow you to create a lot of these different chart types that we like here, that we've shared. And it's going to do so in an elegant way. And the nice thing about Datawrapper is because it gives you a structure for your data visualization. Now, in the Data Plus Design for Development program, there's a discussion between this continuum between very flexible platforms, right? The ones that Eva mentioned that you can code in, and then ones that give you more of a template, right? And so there are pros to cons to each of them. With Datawrapper, that provides you a structure and almost a template, it allows you to be able to create beautiful visualizations, but not make some common design mistakes, right? Because it gives you a structure. You can't screw up the design too much, right? But with Tableau or Power BI or other ones that you need to code or have a lot more features of customizability, it allows you to customize your visualization quite a lot, but it also allows you to make some horrendous visualization and design errors at the same time, right? So there's this trade-off here between the structure and the flexibility of the platform we use. Datawrapper is going to give you a beautiful structure, and that's why people love to use it. And you can see the beautiful elegance of these figures here. These come from the publication called The Economist, which is a worldwide publication on economic, political, social news from around the world. And they use Datawrapper style visualizations and have used Datawrapper for some of their visualizations in their publications as well. We can also see this example, and this comes from one of our Data Plus Design for Development scholars in the 2024 cohort, so this past year, Sakina. And Sakina was looking at the accountability that was taking place, or the lack of accountability, for the fuel subsidy removal and what the funds were going to in Nigeria. So as part of her capstone project at the Institute as a data and design scholar in last year's cohort, or this year's cohort, I should say, she created a full policy brief that used Datawrapper to tell the story about the removal of the fuel subsidy in Nigeria. Some of you may have heard about that, right? They used to subsidize fuel. The new government came in and they removed it. And their argument was that they were going to use the money they were using to subsidize fuel to promote development in the country. And Sakina was wondering whether that was actually taking place, right? Governments make a lot of promises. They don't oftentimes follow through on those promises. And she wanted to see, are they being held accountable for the promises that they shared, right? So you can see this is the cover page of our brief. This is the first part of the brief here. And she does have a pie chart here. And these are just a couple of the pages of her policy brief here. And you can see these were all created in Datawrapper. So she used the Datawrapper and she combined it with Canva, another platform, to be able to arrange the visualizations in the way there. But these maps right here that you can see, which show the 36 states of Nigeria plus the FCT. So if you know that in Nigeria, fun fact, they have 36 states plus the federal capital territory. You can see those are all shown here. And you can see what the pre-subsidy revenues, the fiscal state was versus post. And then you can see how that compared across the different states, both the top 10 and the bottom 10, right? And then you can show, this is looking at the government accounts over time. And you can see all these annotations. If you can see these shaded areas and some labels here, I know it's a little bit fuzzy to see because they're photos of her actual policy brief. So we're not leafing through every page, but you can see the creativity here. You can see the story and you can see the elegance of these Datawrapper visualizations, right? And this, again, her capstone project won one of the awards at our showcase. She won the Public Policy Impact Award because her research and her public policy impact for these data visualizations was quite useful. And it's about an 8-page document, so I'm only showing a couple pages of the visualizations. So you can take a look at this, and you can see the beauty of Datawrapper. After today's session, we're going to jump into Datawrapper in just a moment. You should be able to begin to craft some of these visualizations that are going to help you tell the story in this way. All right? I can see, Isaac, you mentioned the links in the chat. I will share those links again in just a moment. Those links are ways in which you can find out about the program, connect to the Institute, and other things as well, including our LinkedIn information. So I will share those in a moment. I've seen that. Now, let's take a look at some other figures here before Eva jumps right in Datawrapper. This is one that looks at COVID-19 cases. So you can see cases and deaths during the height of the pandemic. You can see that shading. So we're beginning to tell a story here. We can create in Datawrapper some beautiful bubble plots that allow us to show a lot of different data all at once. And this figure actually showing 4 different types of data. You're showing per capita income for the country. You're showing life expectancy. You're showing the size of the population. That's the size of the bubble. And you're also showing by color, you're showing the region. So you're actually showing 4 different pieces of data here. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So it's pretty cool. We also have this map. You can get real local. Eva, do you want to tell us about this example here?
Yeah. So this map, I went into Datawrapper and I was just thinking about creating something. So this is the map of Greater Accra, if you're in Greater Accra. But the figures here I just made up. So I was just thinking about how do you see like market to payment by women in Greater Accra region. So these are just made up figures because I couldn't get the actual figures to put in there. So this also shows you that you can actually create maps at a regional level, especially in Ghana. So this is the map of Greater Accra. And if you look at this map, you will see that people in Sege, if you look at it, Sege, Ashaman, those with the darker purple colors are the ones that are paying high market tolls. But this is just a made up thing, So this is like mainly for Greater Accra. So it shows you that Datawrapper has a lot of capability. You can do a lot of things here. And here, my map is saying that Shaidoku, the largest district, paid the least thing. I mean, this is all like not up to scale. So this is something just to demonstrate that you can do so much in Datawrapper, especially, as I said, if you have your data ready, you're able to create a lot of sophisticated maps, nice looking and really great for presentations.
Yeah, and you can drill down, right? This is really local data. Yeah. In fact, Eve and I were in the market at Makola Market just yesterday, which is, I think, the biggest market, right? Is that right? The biggest market in Accra. And it was not even a market day. It was super busy. So, obviously that market would be right in around here, right, Eva? Or right
Accra,
here,
will be
right
here.
here,
Yeah,
right here,
yeah.
right down here, because Tema's here. So it'd be right somewhere like here on the map, if we could say, right?
Yeah.
So obviously it's not going to drill down to the local level, but we're drilling down pretty far down in that level in the maps that we're going to see in a moment. We can do the classic bar chart, and you can see the different colors. We can color things to be able to tell a story, right? So this is showing us a couple things. This is showing us the light turquoise color here is showing us positive values, whereas the yellow is showing us negative values. So we're using color to bring out our data story. And then we can see a year where we're focusing on a specific event highlighted in red. We can see that annotated with arrows as well. Datawrapper allows us to do those annotations and those different colorations of our bars to, again, tell us the story. Because oftentimes we think that it's all about sort of the figure aspects that are important, but color can be an important aspect of data visualization, as we'll talk about. Datawrapper can also do combination figures as well. This is an example of a bar chart combined with a line chart. And bar chart allows us to show, say, one statistic in 1 year, but then we can use the line chart to show how things have changed over time. In this case, an example of a projection of the male workforce, for instance, right? Now, the last thing I'll say is that data storytelling is quite important. That's what we're going to jump into now. And there are a lot of positions. If you go on LinkedIn and you see people's LinkedIn profiles, or you see jobs that are out there, today what we're going to cover in this second half of this session when we get into Datawrapper is going to provide some really useful pieces that are going to allow you to expand your profile as somebody who may be interested in going in this space of data storytelling. And of course, in data storytelling, the last thing I'll say about that is that we need to keep in mind when we're designing our visualizations, as Eva is going to do along with us, that we have to keep in mind that oftentimes we're sharing our data visualizations with a group of people, oftentimes stakeholders. They could be policymakers, they could be citizens that lack statistical literacy. So we've got to be aware of that. We have to be able to tell the story in simple ways. We need to also make sure that we're making our numbers and our figures as relatable as possible, because if we're doing advocacy with numbers, you'll find that oftentimes statistics and abstract numbers get lost in the mix, right? So let's think about the conflicts that are going around in the world, and unfortunately, we've got a lot of violent conflicts ongoing, which I know that all of us are well aware of. And every day you're getting these new statistics about the number of civilians killed and things of this nature, right? At a point, like these real human lives, like that one person, right, is important to a family, to a community, to many people. But when we get into the numbers where it's like 10 people this day, 12 people this day, and the numbers keep adding up, it desensitizes the nature of what's going on. And so that's the problem with numbers, right? Numbers help us make decisions, communicate things, but we also know that numbers and abstract statistics can be, in some cases, dehumanizing in certain instances. So it is our goal when we're telling our story to humanize the numbers and statistics and things that we're sharing as much as possible. And the other benefit of that is that by infusing story elements, annotations, and other pieces into our data visualization, we're going to be able to engage people in a way that generally people like to disengage when they see statistics. Think about some of your friends when it comes to data and how they sort of have an interest or a lack of interest in data. Sometimes we have friends that love data quite a lot, and then other friends that are, once it gets to quote-unquote numbers, they turn off immediately. Our job as a data visualization expert is to help them and engage them in those statistics, right? And I've talked about that last point before. All right, so let's jump into Datawrapper, and you should feel free to follow along in this section. Eva's going to take us through, so she's going to be sharing her screen, and I'm going to share in the chat a place where you can download the information, so for you to be able to download the data set. So I'm going to share that now while Eva begins to talk about getting set up in Datawrapper.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So as you can see the link, just type in if you want to follow along, just type Datawrapper. And here is the link. Peter also shared the link with you.
I'll share the link, and I'm also sharing a link in the chat. This is the data set that we are using today. It's actually multiple data sets. So I encourage you to download this for yourself, because even after today's session, if you're not able to follow along, say you're joining on your phone right now, you'll be able to work through some of these exercises yourself after today's session. So I've shared in the chat a link to Leaders of Africa's website where we've uploaded the data for today's workshop. So I encourage you again, I'm going to put that link again in the chat because sometimes we miss it. I'm going to put that in the chat to download that data set. That's the exact same data set Eva will be using in modeling and Datawrapper as well. So Eva, I'm going to share in the chat as well the Datawrapper website that you can go to, and then I'm going to hand off the screen to Eva, who's going to be sharing on her laptop for the demonstration. So there's the Datawrapper website that you can go to as well for that. So we encourage you again to follow along, download the pieces, and I'll also share the links to the Leaders of Africa's program while Eva gets started in this section of today's workshop. So Eva, over to you, and why don't you share your screen now?
Okay. Thank you, Peter. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can you see my screen? When you type, wait, okay, you can see my screen. So when you type just Datawrapper, if you type Datawrapper in your browser, you should see this. It asks you create map, so you can go ahead and log in. So first of all, let's do a little bit of demonstration of how the platform looks like. So when you come here, it says enrich your data story. Take your time to explore it. This gives you opportunity to get familiar with the platform. So when you come here, learn more about charts and things like that. And also it gives you an example of organizations that are using Datawrapper. You can see these are some of the big organizations, especially Moody's, you know. And you also have your New York
UN.
Yeah, the UN, New York Times, the World Economic Forum. So you can see that there are a lot of major players that are using Datawrapper. And also when you come here, it shows you the different kinds of products that they have, the table, the charts, and we'll get into it pretty soon. Then the other thing is also they have like case study solutions, and they have some case studies here that you can see the pricing if you are interested in getting the pricing. So here on resources, they have a lot of blog posts. I love to read the blog posts because that is where, if you go there, they have a lot of topics on different kinds of data visualization and things like that. And blog posts are very important when it comes to visualization, because people are sometimes done the visualization themselves and they want to put it in words, you know. So here it is that Read Sparkline by Ali Turban. So here it has a couple of blog posts and things like that. So just read blog posts, and also if you want to learn more from people and things like that and where the data world is going, is there. There's also the River. River is where you see all the various visualization that a lot of people have created. So if you come to River, this is all the visualization that other people have created. You could see them. And the good news is that you can just, if you see a visualization that is now, you can just reuse it, you know. So Reverse does that. So now let's log it into Datawrapper. So let me log out because I don't know which of my Google thing. So you can log in with your email, or you can just log in through your Google. So I am logging in with my Google, and it's with my Google account. And here you are there. So when you come here, any visualization that you create, it will be here on your dashboard. So here you see that it says that create your first chart here. So if you create your first chart, all your visualization will always be here. You can always come here to edit it, to make changes to it, and things like that. And here create gives you the opportunity. That is where you create your charts, map, and different things. And here the archive. So your work is also stored in the archives for you. So you can always have access to it. And when you come to here, you can see the settings. You can change the settings to different language if you want your language. You can also create a team, especially if you are working in a team and you want everybody to look at the visualization. You can create a team for it. And here, reverse, and also the blog. So first of all, let's create our first visualization. So here, to create your first visualization, it asks you, like if you click here, create a map, create a chart. So when you click on it, it brings you here. So as you can see here, it says that upload your data. So it gives you different options or ways to upload your data. First of all, you can upload your data by doing copy and paste and put it here in the table. The second thing you can do is you can also do, you can upload it using your Excel spreadsheet or CSV file. So you can upload that. You can also connect it through your Google Sheet. And the other final thing is that if you have an external link, you can just put a link there and it will go and retrieve the data from there here. But personally for me, what I always do is that I love to do copy and paste. Also because with Excel, like if we will also do one example of Excel upload for you to see how Excel upload will look like, and I will explain something there for you. So before we see the various charts that Datawrapper allows us to create, we have to input in our data. Then it will allow us to proceed to be able to create our first visualization. So here, the data has been shared with you already. So let's create a data. The first thing I want us to look at is, let's look at a line graph. So I'm going to copy the data if you can see it. So I've copied all my data set. This data is up to 2021. Then when you copy it, you come here and you paste it. So I'm doing a demonstration. So when you paste it, it's here. So you can see it's just here, the raw data set. So the next thing is that you have to do proceed. So when you do proceed, it will transform the data into a table, right? So here, as you can see, if you hear, it says that make sure that the data looks right. The reason why they say this is because in Datawrapper, you don't have the power to be able to wrangle your data or manipulate your data, like turn it around and things like that. You do not. So in case the data is correctly displayed, in the numbers will turn into blue, will give you blue. If there is, and also date, the green column shows text and also dates in the green columns. And the other thing is that if you see red, it shows that there is a problem with the data set and you have to correct it. The other thing you can do is that you can swap your data set. If you want to do like transport, like in Excel allow you to do transport. You can swap it, you can get it back on. If you want to add column, you can add. You can also revert the changes. And one final thing here is you can also sort your table. You can sort if you want to. It gives you opportunity to sort. It gives you opportunity to search. So now let's move on to create our first visualization. So when you come here, you can see all the kinds of charts you can create. And just, you know, in Datawrapper, the default chart is always line graph. So when you have your line graph, that will be the default chart. And you can now go in and change it to whatever chart that you want to create. No, someone asked, can the data be reshaped? No, the data cannot be reshaped. As I said, Datawrapper does not allow you to manipulate the data or reshape the data in any way or in any sort. So that is why even from the beginning, it says that your data have to look right. That is what it says. It says that your data, make sure the data looks right because it doesn't have the capability. It has just minimum function, like you can do transport, you can add, you can revert the changes and things like that. You can change the names of your, if you want, you can change the names and things like that. And that is all Datawrapper allows you to do. You can't do really much with it. You can just change the name. If the name is wrong, you can change it and things like that. And if you don't want, you can go back and revert the changes that you've made. So the other thing is when we proceed, as I said, the default graph is the line graph. So if you have a different kind of graph in mind that you want to create, then you have the opportunity to change it. So here you can see that with the type of charts here, Datawrapper allows you, even with line graph, there are different kinds of line graph. We have the multiple lines, and also there is the area chart. Then when you come to bar charts, there are so many bar charts that you can create. You have the bar chart itself, you have the stack chart, which has to be 100%. Then you have your group charts, you have the split chart, you have your bullet chart, you have your column chart, you have your stack column, you have your group columns. So there is so much you can do. And even look, this is for the scatter plot, and even for plot charts, you have like your dots, you have your range, you have your arrow, and donuts. Actually, this is really great. You see the election donuts here. So most, especially election coming up, if you are in Ghana, there's an election coming up in December. If you are in the US, there's an election coming up in November. So you can see, if you go to some organization will tend to use donut, Datawrapper, and they will use the donut chart to show you which candidate is winning and which one is, like, in terms of the margins and as the vote comes in. And what I've seen is that there is also another platform called Flourish that a lot of people use for when it comes to data visualization. Yes, I have a question. Can it be used to show two? Yes, two relationship of correlation. Yes, that is where the scatter plot comes in. If you want to see the relationship between, let's say, revenue and also health expenditure, health outcomes. You're looking at government expenditure and health outcomes. You can look at that correlation using scatter plot. Also, you have your pie charts, and also with pie chart, you have all the different pie charts there. You have the multiple chart, you have the donut chart, you have the multiple donuts too. So as we already said, with Datawrapper, you don't need to code anything. You just come in here, you just have to make sure that your data is right. Then you can go ahead and start your visualization. So here, the goal is to create a line graph. And this is our line graph. We can see the trends here. Line graph, you also have to know which visualization or which charts to use, because look, when you're doing data visualization, first of all, one of the things that you have to look at is who are your audience. You always have to think about your audience, and also make sure that whatever you are communicating is so easy for your audience to understand, especially those who do not have any data background. They'll be able to understand the moment they see your visualization. So yeah. Yes, there's also the possible of, okay, Peter is answering questions there. All right. So the next thing is that, so with this, your data looks this way, but you have to refine it. So Datawrapper gives you the opportunity to now come in and refine your data set. So you could see that on the horizontal axis, you have the years there. In case Datawrapper doesn't capture it well, you can come in. If you want to change, you can change it, but also this is a line graph, and the horizontal axis always have to be year, and the vertical axis have to be like the range or the scores or whatever it has there. So here, there is also the custom range here for the year. You can decide that if you don't want what Datawrapper is giving you, you can change it. You can do like 2000 and 2022, 2020, 2000 to 2002. Like you see, I have the maximum here. You can do that. You can do your custom range if you want that. Then here you can also do your tick, custom tick. So custom tick, if you do like 2000, you see the custom tick here. This one, you are just doing the custom tick. You can give it a certain range. You can do 2000 and 2005. Then it gives you 2000. That is if you want your custom tick. Let's say that you're interested in showing just 3 years, you can do your custom tick. And here is, or you can change the date. Here you can change it to 2000 and everything. You can even do quarterly. You can do months if you want. You can also do like month, April. You can actually do the dates. So it gives you like different date format here. But now let's stick with automatic ones. So here you have your grid lines here. I'm going to take my time to go through all the functions and all the features here, because when we get into the other visualization, I'll just zoom through it because it's going to be the same features. Here you have your grid lines, so you can tell Datawrapper to add lines to it. So here you can see I have grid lines, but let me take it off. You can do your tick lines. Your tick lines is this. Because we are working on the horizontal axis, you have your tick lines. You can say that turn everything off. So here the tick line is off, the grid line is also off. Now let's come to the vertical axis. This is the vertical axis. And because this is GDP growth rate is in percentage, But what Datawrapper is giving us is just like 7.9. There's no the percent sign there. So here is the same thing. You can do the range as I already spoken about. You can do your your ticks if you want to limit in terms of the numbers. And here when you come, this place give you this is where you format it. You can format it into thousands, especially if you are talking about in currencies. You can do the thousands. If you are talking about it in decimal places, it gives you the opportunity to do 0.1, that is 1 decimal places, 2 decimal places, and things like that. And here also percentage. You can decide to do round it if you want to round the percentage. If you do negative 0%, so now everything has been rounded, right? If you decide to do 1 decimal place, you do 0.0%. So here when you come, you can see is GDP growth rate for Sub-Saharan Africa, January 1961 is 1.4%.
Yeah, remember that conversation I mentioned about rounding? This is a perfect place to be able to do that rounding here without having to do the calculations, right? Datawrapper doesn't allow you to shape your data a ton from the ground up, but when it comes to having a foundation for it organized already, you're able to make these nice little changes to it. Yeah.
So the next one here, also the grid lines, you can decide to turn everything off. So there's no grid lines here. And the labels, it gives you the automatic label here. So you can see that GDP growth rate is here. So you can turn it off. Oh, no, the label is for the vertical, sorry. So you can put it inside or you can put it outside. Let's do outside. Right? So if you do outside or you can decide to turn it off, that is up to you.
Notice the template aspect of this. I just want to make sure that everyone has that clear. Remember I talked about the tension between, or the continuum between, flexibility and template, right? This is where you can see Datawrapper isn't allowing you to like hard code aspects of this figure, but they're giving you a lot of flexibility to be able to change things around. But at the same time, it kind of guides you in a good direction to be able to make good design decisions.
Yeah. So here, when you come here, you can customize your line. You can decide to change the colors. And you see, one of the things in data visualization is that you have to think about the colors because it's design. If you think about it, like you also want to make your chart graph presentable. And if someone sees it, it draws them to it. So here, Datawrapper also gives you the option. You see all the color code for blue here. You see all the different shades of blue is here. If you pick red, all the different shades of red is here. If you pick green, it's the same thing. And the other thing is that if you can't see the color shade, some people like do data visualization for the organization. You can bring your organization color code here, and Datawrapper will be able to identify the color code for your organization. Quite easy. So let's stick with green here. You can show the lines. So here you can do linear, curve. It depends on what you're doing. You can do steps. Some people like to do their visualization in different ways. I personally do not like steps, but this steps looks cool. It looks like a skyscraper somewhere. You can do steps. You can do curve. But also, as I said, is your audience. If I'm going to present this to my audience, are policymakers, I'm not going to do steps, right? Because it looks goofy. But if I'm going to present it to my colleagues that I'm very friendly with, I can do steps and it looks really cool, But you also have to think, as I said, who are your audience? That is very important. So here, when you come, you can also change the lines. You can do, the line has to be like, if you want to do a thinner lines, or thicker lines, you can change the patterns here. If you want it to be blank, if you want to do dashes, you can do it. So you see, it gives you the opportunity to increase the thickness of the line. And here the labels. So here there's the label here. You can decide to bring in the legend. In terms of the label, you can make it a legend, or you can decide to do right. So right, the label is here, or you can decide to do none. Right? If you do none, there's nothing here. So here, if I do put a label here on the right, you can see that it's showing that there should be a connector line, right? A line that connects, or use a line, right? you will see that is the line, connector line here. So let's do none so that everything is turned off. Then here, actually there is a new feature, show value labels. This is new. So if you click on it, you can see that it said show value labels. So it's showing you here the first and the last. You can decide to do just the first, just the last, or just the first, depending on like what you want to communicate. Then the other thing is here too, is the same thing, number format your vertical axis. We have already spoken about this here. And here, label per line. So you can decide to do, label per line. You can decide to label all of it, or you can decide to label just one line. It also depends. You can use label color, or you can decide not to use the label color, so that is black here if you want. You can use symbols. So in terms of here, you can see the label here. You can, if you want it to be prominent, you can just use circle for the first and the last. If you want to do for all, like circle at every point, you can do it too, right? And you can change it. You can use a square, you can use diamond, you can use a triangle, right? It depends. So here you have the opportunity to use different line symbols. So it all depends on you, what you are interested in doing. So let's go back here. You can see, let's just do for first and last. Then the other, so you can increase the size of the symbol if you want. So here we are making it really big. You can make it small. You can also reduce the opacity. If you reduce the opacity, it will be much lighter. So it all depends on what you want to do. And here it gives you the opportunity to create an area chart, right? So fill area below. So you can come in here. If you want to fill the area, you can use gray, you can use blue. If I'm using blue, it wouldn't, that's why I'm saying that the colors is very important, like your color scheme. If I use blue, it doesn't really go well with this. So it'll be good for me to use green, or probably use a transparent green, right? That makes it really cool. And it all depends on like what kind of message you want to create, right? So that is why it's very important, the kind of messaging you want to create. So you have the opportunity to use different colors here, but let's not do the area field here. And here you can also do the date, same as the horizontal axis and things like that. Plot height, you can increase the height if you want. You can do a fixed height, you can do base height, you know, that is if you want the height to be bigger or longer or wider, you can increase it here. And also label margin is 0 now. So you see, if you do label margin, you can make it really small and things like that. So it all depends on what you want to do. And here is a cool feature here. So here, this feature is for people that are colorblind. So that is why your audience are really important. So if you have people that are colorblind, you can decide to use, they have different colorblind colors that you can use for people that cannot identify colors to use to do it. So if I do what? It has some scientific names here. You could see the names here and things like that. So you can do it. And also you can change it into a dark mode. You can do a light mode. If you do a dark mode, it's really cool, right? So it all depends on what you want to do with Datawrapper. So the next thing we want to do is we want to do annotate. So the next thing is you come here, you do your annotation. So here now you can give your title a label. So this is GDP growth rate. So you can just do Sub-Saharan African GDP growth rate, right? You can add description here. If you want to be very detailed, you can add description. You can say that in 1970, as I said, it all depends on who are your audience, what you want to communicate. If you want to highlight, I'll do the annotation for you to see. But if you want to talk about, let's say that your audience don't know which countries are in Sub-Saharan African country, you can list all the countries here. Or what you can also do is that you can say that Sub-Saharan African countries exclude North Africa or something like that. So you can add descriptive here. Or if you want to be very descriptive, you can say that you could see that in 20 Here, this data is up to 2021. In 2021, you can say that despite the COVID pandemic, most African countries, although like the beginning of the pandemic in 2020 were hit by the pandemic, you could see that you could see also the growth rate doubled. Like here is negative 2.4%, and now in 2021 the growth rate of 4.2%, which was really good. So you can give a little bit of descriptive that during the pandemic, during the global pandemic, GDP growth rate for sub-Saharan GDP growth rate was negative 2.4. Sorry, I can't really see 4%. However, in 2021, we can see significant However, in 2021, we can see positive growth rate, right? If you want to be very descriptive, so that's how you do. You can also add notes. You can do the data. So this is from World Bank. Sorry, I can't really see my screen. This is from World Bank. So you can also add a link if you want. Who created this visualization? If it's you, you can add your initials. You can add descriptive to it if you want. And this is the cool part that I like. So here you can do annotation. Annotation allows you to, like, if you want to walk people through a story, you can do annotation. So you click on it, then you put it here. So annotation allows you to add some descriptive to your visualization. So you can say that in 1970, sub-Saharan African countries had the highest growth rate. Yeah. So you can do annotation, and when you come here, you can move it around to anywhere you want. When you come here with annotation, it allows you to change the text. You can do italics, you can color it, you can do anything that you want. So you can reset it, and things like you can increase the font size, or you can choose not to. And when you come here, you can text outline, things like that. So here it's saying that show on mobile. If it's mobile that you're going to show, and you can do that. And here the text position, right? You can do here is left justify. You can do middle, center. You can do right. So it gives you that. It's the same thing here. Then here you can see that the annotation is just standing alone. You can add a line to it, right? So you can just draw a line. You can add a line to it, and this is what gives you the opportunity to draw a line. So here the line has been drawn, but it's pointing in different directions. So it's up to you to move it to point to wherever you are. You can use different types of lines here. You can use a curve one, also the width. You can increase the size. You can increase the distance. Here you can make it, see, the higher you go, the more you move away. As you decrease the size, then you move closer. You can add arrows to it. And here you can use text color. Text color is that you can text color. If this one, the text was like, say, blue here, if you use the text color, you can see that the arrow becomes blue as well too. So that is something that you can do here. But we can do the text color to be blue. The text color has to be green so that it all matches. But also I'm doing visualization. I'll just do reset so that it's just black. So you could see that with annotation, you can do anything that you want. You can also draw a circle at the end of the line, right? So this is a circle here at the end of the line. You can do different shape, different types, and things like that. So this is, you see, Datawrapper gives you the opportunity to do some of the simpler stuff without the need for coding. And here you can do the duplicate. You can also do highlights. If you want to highlight a specific part of your visualization, you can just cancel click on the highlight range. So here you can decide to highlight, let's highlight 2020. So you can do the highlight this way, right? Let's highlight. You can do the highlight. So if it turns into a line, you can do that as well. Or what you can do is, you can do just a range here, right? It depends on what you want to say. But let's delete the highlight. We want the highlight to be more on the horizontal side. So you pick it. It's very tricky. So you see if it goes this way, or you can do this highlight. You can move it around. Let's highlight 2021 and 2022. So you can make it smaller. You can just make it a line if you want it. If you make it a line, if you want it to be a line, you just close everything. You can do here. So we've highlighted that section. You come here. You can change it into any color you want, right? So here you can make it light green and things like that. Or you can just decide to do gray. So any color you want, you can do the highlights here and things like that. So I mean, most of the time, if I am doing a highlight or I want to work my someone into it that I'm doing a highlight, I want to do annotation here to explain why I have this highlights there, right? Like the one we saw on the Sakina visualization, when she did the highlights, she showed you like after the subsidies. So she had the highlights here and she had annotation to show that after the subsidies, this is what happened. So now we are finished with our visualization. The next thing we have to do is go to the layout. So here, when you see the layout here, can we get the details of the highlight on my system? Oh, you can't. I will go back to it again in our next presentation. So I will show you how to do it. So when you come to the layout here, now you can use themes because you are using the limited, the free version of Datawrapper. The themes, you are limited to what Datawrapper can offer you. So first of all, if you decide to use the theme that they had for 2012, if you click on it, it's going to turn into that. You will see the theme. It gives you a different color. You can decide to use a high contrast theme. I don't even see the difference with the one that I did. You can decide to do page flow. Page flow gives you like the dark mode kind of theme if you want. But let's say that we are not interested in that. And let's say if you are interested in a dark mode theme, right? Let's say we are interested in a dark mode theme. You can see that your highlight here is blended. Your gray here is blended with the dark mode theme. So what you need to do is you go back to your annotation, and here with the highlights, you change the color to look like something like white. Let me change the highlight color. It's not really showing. Or let's do green. Something like light sort of green. It's still not really clear. Let me go back. Something that stands out. If you do red, see red stands out a little bit, which is good. Another thing I forgot to show you in the highlights is that you can see here, it tells you the orientation, like range. That is what we've done. If you want a line, it will turn into a line instead of you doing it manually. So here, it gives you that kind of feel. Yeah. So now you have your dark mode visualization, or you can use the theme that they have. Page flow gives you that dark kind of background and things like that. So now you have your nice data visualization using Datawrapper. So the next thing you want to do is you want to do let's do light. The next thing you want to do is you want to publish it. So to publish it, you can just do publish and embed. So when you publish it, you will see that your work is here. Now you can download it is in a PNG file. That is the only one. Like that is the only one you have access to. So when you publish, let's publish it and you see. When you publish, now it gives you opportunity to copy the link and share, or you can embed the code. You can embed if you are doing it in, like you want to put it on a website, doing an embed is really cool, because in that case you are able to see, you see the tooltip here, you can see everything. It become a little bit more interactive. And the final thing is that if you want to do like what Sekina did, she downloaded it, and then she downloaded it and copied it into Canva. And in that case, you can also download it and just insert it into your Word document or your PowerPoint or wherever you want to do it. So now we've done our first data visualization. We took a lot of time to go through it. When you come to your dashboard, you should see it here. Here it says that it's here, but it's not showing here. But it should show here. Recently created GDP growth rate. So it's here. So your visualization will always be there. The next, is there any questions? So the next thing we want to do is that I want to take you through multiple lines. So just to show you how to create multiple lines.
And as Eva gets this set up,
Yeah.
if you don't mind giving us, we have a tradition at the Institute programs, because our programs are live like we are today and interactive, to give us a good to go in the chat or a G2G.
Yeah.
If you're following us thus far, right? If you're following us, generally speaking, give us a G2G or a good to go in the chat, so we know that you're on the same page as
With
we
us,
are.
yeah.
Because we know some of you have questions, and we're answering some of those questions in the chat, and we're monitoring those so we can see that. But we also know those of you who don't have questions may also be still following along very well, and I can see the G2Gs or the GTGs are coming in as well. Great. Good to see that everyone's following. And again, encourage you to ask questions here, because at the same time as we're showing how to use the platform, we're also talking about the ways in which we may think about how to create that elegant, beautiful visualization piece. But I do want to say one thing before Eva moves on to the next figure, which is the issue of distribution mechanism. So as Eva said, there are different ways that we distribute our data visualization. Sometimes we share them on websites or in digital platforms, and other times they're in brochures, reports, or even on billboards or things of this nature, right? There's sort of a difference between the two. Online mediums allow you to be kind of three-dimensional in your view, right? They allow for the tooltips that you saw. When you highlight over the numbers, you can see those. In addition to that, tomorrow in the Tableau session, you're going to be creating drop-down menus and filters that allow you to kind of play around with the data and explore the data using those interactive features, right? And it's a lot of the focus of the Data Plus Design for Development program, is building in interactive elements. That works when you're using an online or digital distribution mechanism. But if you're trying to use this in the context of a report or a newspaper article or something that's going to be published where people aren't interacting with it, you got to keep in mind that things like your tooltip are not going to be accessible to those that are using your visualization. So there are going to be other visual cues that you're going to need to share as part of your data visualization.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. All right. So we've published our data visualization. Now we are going to move on to the next thing. So we go on here to the dashboard. It will be here. It's still not loaded yet. So the next thing is we want to create another chart here. This one I'm going to go very quick. So I want to show you how to upload it into Excel, and I'll show you one of the limitations of Excel unless it's been rectified. So here, when you come to Excel, you go to where your file is, then you click on it. So you do open the file. Okay. Oh, okay, the file is already open, so let me close it. All right, so here the file has been closed. So when you open it, you see Datawrapper doesn't give you, I have different sheets in my Excel file, as you already know. It doesn't give me the opportunity to select which sheet I want to pull the data from. So when I did Excel upload, it just automatically, when I did open, you will see that it just automatically copied the first data there for me, which that is what I do not want. But what I want to focus on is to do is to look at multiple sheets. So you can see that we have different sheets here and things like that. And the first thing it did was to give me the first data that is the line graph there. So that is like one of the limitations of it. So here I'll just do copy and paste. That is like I feel like that is my safe bet when it comes to Datawrapper. So I just do the paste. Yeah, I do. So I'm going to go through it very quickly. So here you have to scroll down and just make sure that your number looks good. It looks good. So what I need to do is to proceed. And here it's going to give me a line graph for all the data here. So this is, I'm looking at GDP inflationary rate of different African countries, 4 of them: Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, and Nigeria. So here you have the line graph here. So it's good. You could see the trend. You could see Ghana in the early 2000s, it was pretty high. It's gone down, and now in 2021 to 2022, it's gone up. And you could see that South Africa and Kenya has like some of the lowest GDP growth rate, single digit. But when you look at Ghana, it's pretty high. There is a way also to look at this. If you want them to be individual, like line graph, you can just click on multiple lines. So when you click on multiple lines, you see it gives you, this is Ghana, this is South Africa, this is Nigeria, this is Kenya. So when you come to refine, this one is just a straight line. When you come to refine, you will see that here you can turn it into you can do 2. If you do 2, it will put it on like the scale. You can do
2 by 2.
2 by 2. You can do 3 by 3, depends on what you have. Then here you can just do the base. If you want to do that, like you see, you can make it bigger, or you can do fix. And here we've already gone through this already. The other thing you can also do is you can just say that show grid lines, or you can just say that use individual scales. So here, if I want to use the individual scale, you can just click on it. Look at the individual scale. So I'm using the individual scale here for all the countries. Or you can just say use, I say don't use the individual scale, it's going to use the scale for Ghana. So you can see that South Africa is very flat, a little bit flat. Nigeria and Ghana own is very distant. But if you use the individual scale, you can see all of it. So we've gone through this already. You can also change the colors if you want. Because we've been doing green, let's stick with green. And the other thing is, you can hear, if you want to mute, here you can see all the lines. There is a way, if you don't want the line of Ghana to be visible, you can just close the eyes. If you close it, Ghana is gone. If you open it, it's here. You can also decide to do area field here if you want. And you can, let's take the grid lines off. Let's do no grid. Here, you can also use, we've already gone through it, opacity. You can do the formatting for the vertical axis is a percentage, so that it shows that as a percent, the T-tip shows as a percent. So the next thing is you proceed. If you proceed, you come to refine the same thing. We've done already the title. This is inflation rate for selected African countries. So it's simple. The first thing is understanding your doing the first thing, going through the formatting and things like that. You can add your note. Then the next thing you can do is do the highlights. So someone said they didn't get the highlight or the annotation to work. It's the same thing. The annotation, you can do the annotation for Ghana here if you want. You can put in your descriptive here. You can also show the highlights if that is what you want. The highlights, especially if you want to communicate something here. You can talk about how politicians in the past have always been fighting for, especially if you are from Ghana, single-digit economy, but at this point, they are nowhere near single-digit economy inflation. So you can see most countries have single-digit inflation. So you can, except for Nigeria, also have double-digit, 19%. Ghana is 31%. As of 2022, South Africa and Kenya tend to be doing well. So the thing is that in Ghana, I'm currently sitting in Ghana. So the thing is that in Ghana, most of the politicians have been blaming COVID-19. But if you look at South Africa, too, has 7%. And also you should know that South Africa was really hard hit by COVID-19 compared to all the other African countries. And look at Kenya too, the same thing. All these countries were affected by COVID-19. But they are doing well, and the question is what is going on? And one thing you have to know is that some of these countries, South Africa is, Peter, if I'm wrong, highly industrialized. It has a lot of manufacturing sectors there that help to boost the economy and the mines. And also in Kenya too, Kenya is, when it comes to technology, they are really up there. So they are also creating a lot of jobs in the tech space. Nigeria too is really, inflationary rate is just really low. So it all depends on like the economy and what they are doing. You know, economies that depend a lot on imports and things like that tend to be affected a lot by what is going on in the global world and things like that. So, but in the Ghana situation, I don't even know why we have, as of 2022, we had 31% inflationary rate, because we've always been proud of having a single digit inflationary rate. That is what our politicians almost always boast about. So having 31 is just not great. So we are done here. This is simple, straightforward. So you go here, you publish. As we already said, it's the same thing. So I'm going to rush through it because we have very limited time. And the next thing is I'm going to show you a bar chart pretty quickly here. We are just going to use we are going to do one of the bar charts. So let me create this, then I'll move on to maps, then we'll call it day. So I'll just show you. I'm not going to go through all the intricacies because the moment you learn the refine and everything, it becomes so easy. So I have two different data set. I have like a kind of a split
Yeah,
bar.
do you see this one? Go back to the line chart here.
See this one?
Yeah. This is a common mistake that many people make in data
Yeah.
visualizations is they use a line graph for everything. So these Africa, world, Asia, these are discrete regions. They're what we call categorical variables, right? So like countries or regions or subnational regions, right? Like districts or things like that, right? These are categorical variables. They are not something that you want to use a line graph with, you know, when they're comparing to each other, because a line graph is meant to show a trend, like changes over time. This doesn't make sense if you think about it, right? It would be like saying, let me pretend to narrate this. As you go from Africa to the world, it goes down. And then when you go from world to Asia, it gets lower, right? That doesn't make any sense, right? These are just values for the world, values for Africa, values for Asia, America, so on and so forth, right? But one of the mistakes that a lot of people make with their data visualization is they use these categorical variables alongside a line chart. There needs to be time, there needs to be some variable on a continuous basis, right? Like height or life expectancy or GDP per capita or expenditure in a different area such as health. Those are all continuous variables that you can show on that x-axis, that bottom axis. But discrete variables, you want to stay away from that. That's when you begin to go to your traditional bar charts. And don't be afraid to use a lot of bar charts. I think another mistake that a lot of data visualization folks make is they think that they need to use different figures for everything they do, right? So they add a line chart for discrete variables because they had a bar chart before it in their report and they wanted to mix things up. They didn't want to bore people with all these, you know, bar charts, right? But that's not a good way and a reason why you need to use a certain figure type. It needs to match the data type. So even if your entire report is a bunch of bar charts, right, that may be the best tool that you use for visualization. Don't be afraid to use a lot of bar charts, right? It's usually a great figure for a lot of them. Now, there are other chart types here that Eva's talking about that Datawrapper has that can add some creativity. Yes, that's good, but also make sure that it is a good fit for your data. So just keep that in mind when you're creating your visualizations.
Okay. So here, this data set has youth unemployment between 15 to 24. and also we have adult, that is 25 plus. So you will see that here, the moment is two different data sets. It has regions if you have the data there, but it just gives you the default, as Peter already said. So now let's use a bar chart and come up with something. So if we do a stack chart here, you will see it's really cool, but I mean, you want it to really differentiate it. You could do a group bar here, right? You can also do a split bar here. So with a split bar, you can see it has the youth, it has the adults here. You can do the bullet, right? Right, then you have the youth inside and the adult outside. I think the adult outside and youth outside. So let's just focus on the split chart, split bars here. Then we go to refine. Here is the same thing, it's percentage. So let's do percent. Let's run it to 1 decimal place. Then here you can add a flag if you want. You can show the legend. The legend is already there, but there's no need to show the legend because you will see that the name's already here. So there's no need to show the legend. The other thing is that you can change the colors if you want. You will see that here, Datawrapper has already given you the color scheme that you want to use. So if let's say that I want a different color. If I choose red, it will give me another color that matches red, that goes together with red, which makes Datawrapper really unique. If I do green, the same thing. If I do blue, if I do yellow, dark orange, it gives me the dark orange and an orange color. So Datawrapper is really cool because it helps you in the selection of your own colors. And here you can use a line, a tick bar line, bars. That is, if you want to do a tick bar, and you can see the shadows there. You can also decide to do a line separating them. So there's a line separating them, which is make it really nice. Or you can choose to mirror the bars, right? So which makes it really cool and fun. Yeah.
But don't have redundancy in your figures. So if you got the labels for youth and adult there, don't have a legend there. Oftentimes your title of your figure can actually be your legend, right? So if you're showing, if your title is specific as to what you're showing in the visualization, you can remove a legend. And your goal in the data visualization is to remove as much information or features to it as possible while telling a very clear story. That is the goal, right? That simplicity element we talked about.
Yeah. So here you can also sort the bar if you want, sort by youth, sort by adult. If you want, you can also do reverse. That's the other way. You can also do, okay, this we don't have the option to do group by group. So the other thing, you can just proceed is the same thing. You can just go in and add global unemployment rate. So then you publish your work, then you're good to go. So for the sake of time, we want to do our one last visualization, which is map. So with map, let's create map. You will see the different kinds of map you can create. You can do locator map, like the GPS one. You can do the symbol. You can do your chloroplate one. Chloroplate map is like the ones that you see most of the time. So let's create that. So when you see your map, right? So now you have the default is the world map. Now you have your African map here. All you need is your data and you come. So as I want to show you, if you want the map of Ghana, is there. You can see the map of Ghana here. It has all the regions. And you can see that it's telling you that 2022 because in Ghana, they added 6 more regions to the 10 regions that we already had. So it has like the newest regions and also the newest district there. So you could see Brona Ahafo district. You could see Ashanti district. If you click on it, look at the Ashanti map, the map of Ashanti region. You see Bono, you can see the map here. So this one, it gives you the map like at the district level and also parliamentary constituencies here. So which makes it really cool, right? And especially parliamentary constituencies is very important. If you are doing like the elections and the data is coming in, then you just start populating it there. And here, you can also see the map of Eastern region, Greater Accra, all of it is here. Now let's go to Kenya and see what the map of Kenya looks like. You see they have the map at the county level. They have the map at the sub-county level, wards level, and province level. So this makes it really cool. So you don't need to think about
Some areas they have wards. Wow, that's amazing. They've
wards.
added that.
Oh, yeah, this is really...
I mean,
wow.
not everywhere you can see, but at least county and sub-county. I mean, that's going to be helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, look at if you're
Province.
doing a study related to Nairobi, you know, you're pretty well covered there,
Yeah,
which
Nairobi,
is nice.
yeah.
Which is a massive city.
And they have some of the districts, Isiolo,
Isiolo, yep.
then Kiambu,
Yep.
then you have Nairobi, and also you have the...
So it
all
seems
the
like they're
different
building out
provinces.
this.
Yeah,
And Data
building.
Wrapper is always adding in
Adding
the
to- yeah.
administrative boundaries. And this is really nice because oftentimes when you're using other platforms for data visualization, you got to go to some other website
Yeah.
or resource to download the administrative map. And then you have to combine the administrative map with the data in some technical way. You know, that's what you're using R, Python, things of like this. You kind of have to do that. But here they're kind of putting those administrative boundaries in for yourselves for you to use
And
in a
also,
more easy way.
you could also see they have the sub-regional maps here. So West Africa, all the countries in West Africa, right? So is there. Let's look at what they have for Nigeria. For Nigeria, they have, state and local government. And I think, yeah, which makes sense. So you can see all the local government, and when you see the state, it gives you the 36 states here, plus.
But they even have the
Abuja.
LGAs or local government areas, which
Yes.
is blows my mind
Yeah.
in many respects, right? And as Ezra said in the chat, you know, a while ago they weren't as specific, and you can see
Yeah.
they're populating, you know, from where Ezra's from, the Kenya map quite successfully. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are going to do one simple map here. Let me just go through it. We are going to look at maternal mortality rate. And before that, I want to show you this maternal mortality rate here. So this maternal mortality rate is coming from UNICEF, and this is how it looks like. You can see all the regions, the countries in the world, and also you can see those that have very low mortality rate has like is blue, is shaded in blue, and the rest. And this is maternal mortality rate per 100,000 live birth. So let's go back here because our interest is world. So let's click on world. Then you click on the world map. Then you do proceed. Then now we come here to get our data set. You have your data set, we copy it. Then we put here, so here you can see that it has the data set here. You can decide to paste it here, right? Or you can decide to just copy and paste. So let's paste it here. If you paste it here, it asks you to put it in the arrow. So here it's populating it for you. So you can see there is an issue with this map. The thing is that it says check, and it's telling you that all these countries, the names don't correlate with what they have. So you have to come in here. We are going to just do a few for them. You have to come in here. The Bahamas is the Bahamas. So that is what they have. And here Brunei is just Brunei. Right? So you have to come in here.
Cabo Verde, because it's in Portuguese, so they say Cabo Verde. The other one you oftentimes see,
Brunei.
since I do a
me
lot of
see.
work in Cote d'Ivoire always trips up the system, right? Because it's
Yeah.
Ivory Coast in some data sets,
So yeah,
and Cote d'Ivoire in
so you
others,
see?
and sometimes they include the accent over the O in some databases they don't. So be very careful when you're merging your data set or
yeah.
correcting it. Yeah, Democratic Republic of the Congo is another one. DR, Republic
DRC.
DR, or or just Congo R, which is Congo
So
Republic.
Cape Verde is, here it has
Cabo Verde.
And here is Cape Verde.
So just pay attention
Let's
to
pay
that.
attention. Just make sure, otherwise it wouldn't read it well for you.
But the
Here
nice
is-
thing, how it searches it for you, it kind of tries to help you
Yeah.
out, right? If you're doing this in R or Python, it's not going to help you out per se. Sometimes you can, use some tools to be able to do that. But with this, it's going to kind of help you
out.
find those
Yeah.
correct ones. Yeah.
So here you can see we don't have time, so we won't be able to do everything. So the other thing, we just tell it to proceed. It will do it for us.
You'll do those that you've matched, right?
Yeah.
The other ones you'd have to fix. For the sake of time, we're going to shortcut that a little bit.
So you can see the ones that I have to fix, there's no data there.
DRC.
Yeah. So the other thing is that because we have rankings, we have to change the select column to ranking. So that gives us the ranking here. So you could see those with very low is here, very high is there. You can decide to change the colors to whatever you want, but there's another pretty way to do it. So
looking at this, right, like you want to use colors that correspond. So let's just stop here for a second, Eva. So you see how very low is red?
Yeah.
Like red, generally speaking, is a color that I love the color red, by the way. It's a very beautiful color. But in general terms, red kind of evokes alarm, is used for alarm situations, right, to draw your attention to it. And so if very low is your red here, for a lot of people, that's not going to be very intuitive. They're going to think that very low is actually the alarming regions. They'll look at this map first thing and they'll be like, oh no, something in Canada, the United States, Algeria, there's a problem. And then they're like, oh, that's actually the very low areas, right? So colors generally have a sense that is associated with them. So be aware of sort of people's individual intuitive color sense and make that come clear. Because again, like colors are a tool for data visualization. We forget about the importance of color, but they actually do communicate really important things. So just bear in mind some of these pieces when it comes to your color palette.
So if it's very low, you don't need a red color.
You definitely don't want the red color
so
here.
So you can do blue, and we can decide to do like
that's like the tech color.
The blue
what
there.
I call the tech purple.
Yeah. So you can also, if you want to do blue, if you want to change the color, you just click on very high. Like let's say extremely low and extremely high, you can do red. So that one, if you do red, you will see the country that have extremely red here. So here you can come in and change the colors and like you can customize the colors, right? And here we want to do the legend. So here you can see that the legend, they are off. You see you have extremely high, high, low, very high. So you can come in here and just move them around. So you can move your very high here, very high here. Then it falls. So now you have extremely high, very high, high, low, very low, right?
And you'd want a better color palette. If we had time, we
yeah.
would try and create a nice little gradient there. Eva, why don't you put on a gradient? Can you just do a gradient as opposed to stepped colors? Go up above. Yeah.
So you can decide to do your, in terms of the legend, you can decide to do vertical, right? Or you can decide to do horizontal. If you do horizontal, that is what it gives you in this way. If you do vertical, you have it this way. You can do above or below. Let's put it at below. You see, it has like the center top, bottom right, bottom right. So if you do it, bottom right is there. Let's do bottom left, so that is already here, and you can see the space, and you can be able to write here. So you say you want color gradient.
Yeah. Why don't we just do that? Because it's.
If you want to do color gradient, then you have to do rate.
There we go.
So you can see with color gradients, it gives you the rate here. But if you do, and also you can change the colors if you want. If you want to do show it by ranking, then you do it this way.
Okay.
Right. And this is the same as this. So this is how they created it. Like the names, that is how they did it. It's the same thing if you want to. So this is actually Datawrapper here for you. So the next thing you want to do is that you play around with this. You can do zoomable. Like if you want it to be zoomable, you can add the arrows here. You can insert the map. Insert map. You can do full map, crop to data, and things like that. So here you can hide the borders. If you want to hide the borders, you can hide them. If you want to see the borders are there. You can put it in the center. You can put it right aligned. So the next thing is that let's go and do notate. Here is the same thing. You put the names here. You can decide to show labels. If you show labels of the countries, so you can see the countries. You can decide this is showing 7 countries. You can increase it to 8 or 10. And the other thing is that you can decide to, if you don't want United Kingdom to show, you can just close the eye. Like this eye If you shut it down, it will hide it and things like that. So if you are interested in just showing just one country, like say Nigeria, you can do it. Like you can do by place, by column. Oh wait. So you can just do by country, then you can search the country that you want to highlight and things like that. So, and it's the same thing, you can do your annotation. Here, the two-tip. So the two-tip here has like the region. This is the two-tip. It has the region. You can decide to add, it has a region name to be Canada. You can decide to add, you can type, you can add country. Then when you do it, it has country, Canada.
There we go.
The value you can decide to do.
This is again, in the Data Plus Design for Development program, we go into more depth in terms of these kind of features that allow you to customize tooltips and do things of this nature.
So mortality very low. You can just customize it and things like that. You can also use your HTML code. If you know them, you can just, it allows you to do that. So the next thing is you publish your data set. Then you have a nice data visualization. So this is just to walk you through the demonstration of data visualization and Datawrapper. And this brings us to the end of this section. But as you can see, we didn't go through everything, but introducing you to like the most critical and the most fundamental part of data visualization. You should be able to work on it. You should be able to do it on your own. So this needs a little bit more practice on your side to get very conversant with it.
Wonderful. And as we conclude today's session, we did want to say a few last things. So let me share my screen here, Eva. So as we mentioned at the beginning, today's session is supported by the Leaders of Africa Institute, which provides engaging programs focused on research, data science, as well as tech development. And so we invite you all to apply to those programs and get involved. I've shared the links in the chat for how you can get involved. In particular, there's a link there for the interest form. We suggest filling out the interest form. This interest form allows you to share with us that you have an interest in the Data Plus Design for Development program, such that when applications open in November, you're able to get an alert for those applications opening. And so, as you can see in your chat here, you've got those links there. The Data Plus Design for Development program covers design fundamentals, Datawrapper, Tableau, Microsoft Power BI, and Flourish, and involves each of the data and design scholars creating a capstone project. One of our alumni, in fact, was here with us today, which is Ezra, who joined us here. He was in the 2021 cohort of the Data Plus Design for Development program and can speak to that experience as well. There will be information sessions for the program when the application window opens in November and continues through December. So we encourage you to fill out that interest form to get notifications when those events take place and when the applications are open. In addition to that, three full impact scholarship will be given to attendees of the Africa Digital Skills Conference. So please make sure to include that on your application. There will be a section to mention that you participated in this session, as well as the session tomorrow on Tableau. So in addition to the links there, I want to encourage you all to join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. UTC or GMT for the session on Tableau. It will be, again, myself and Eva, but we're going to be looking at some of these design principles in another platform, and that's Tableau, which has the features of being able to create some engaging data dashboards that have interactive features. So we're going to be talking about some of the fundamentals of that platform tomorrow. And again, that is at 9 a.m. UTC/GMT. So we encourage you to join. In addition to that, I will say that we will put our individual LinkedIn information in the chat. So if you want to connect with Eva or myself personally on LinkedIn, in addition to the Institute, we encourage you to also do that as well. And again, I'm going to put the links there to the Institute's WhatsApp group, the interest form, and the program page, and the Leaders of Africa's LinkedIn. These are all a great place to connect with the Institute. So again, We look forward to seeing many of you soon, perhaps in programs here at the Leaders of Africa Institute. And we thank you for joining us today on this session focused on Datawrapper and using data visualization to create some socially as well as economically impactful data visualizations. And we encourage you to practice, because data visualization is something that takes not only learning the tools, but practicing the art of data visualization for all the different decisions that we have to make as we're crafting those engaging data visualizations. And as we close, we also want to thank Mobile Web Ghana, American Spaces, and all the sponsors for the Africa Digital Skills Conference. This is the third year in which the Leaders of Africa Institute has supported and participated in this conference. It is a highly impactful conference, and we're so excited to continue that support and for all the arrangements that Mobile Web Ghana American Spaces has created for this to be a time of learning, a time of practice, and a time of really taking our skills to the next level. So with that, we hope to see you soon. My name is Professor Peter Penar, and this is Eva, and we thank you for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care, and bye-bye.